Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the sports podcast of the Kansas City Star and KCUR. I'm Blair Kerkhoff. It's Tuesday, December 2nd, and on today's show, we'll discuss next year's FIFA World Cup. Years after being awarded games on the planet's largest sporting event, Kansas City will know on Saturday which countries will play group stage games here. Kansas City also rolled out a massive transportation plan for getting fans around the metro area. Star columnist Vahe Gregorian is here to talk about the teams and the fans who will be part of the city's soccer mosaic next summer. But first, we are talking Chiefs and what needs to happen for them to make a playoff push. Easy answer, right? Well, they have to win. Beat writer Pete Sweeney is here to tell us why that's been so difficult lately. And then we'll finish up by telling you what's on my radar in this busy week in Kansas City sports. Hello, Pete.
Hello. I come ready to tickle some tonsils with these takes.
I've never heard tickle my tonsils or tickle your tonsils before Andy Reid said it on his Monday press conference.
If I'm some of the Chiefs leaders, I'm tapping into the equipment team and I'm getting some shirts drawn up for that.
I think the Chiefs could use a little levity right now anyway, the way things are falling for them. Let me run this by you. So the Chiefs just completed Week 13. They're on to Week 14. In those 2 weeks last season, Week 13, that was the week where they played the Las Vegas Raiders at Arrowhead, and Aiden O'Connell, the Raiders quarterback, took a snap off his chest, lost a fumble while the Vegas had gotten into field goal range, and the Chiefs ended up winning the game by 2. The Week 14 game, the one the Chiefs are going to play this weekend, last year, that was the LA Chargers at Arrowhead, and Mahomes led the Chiefs to a game-winning field goal drive. That game-winning field goal was kicked by Matthew Wright, who was the third kicker that year, and I believe he doinked it off the upright. All of which is to say, or to illustrate, things went pretty well for the Chiefs last year, and they tended to win those tight, close games. Just last week, we saw them lose another close game at the Dallas Cowboys to fall to 6-6. If you wanted to characterize this as, paying the piper or however, it just seems like the odds have caught up with the Chiefs in these games.
A little bit, yeah. And I think that has been the messaging that Andy Reid has been trying to get across. And we just joked about his tonsil comment, but I think the energy behind that is that we're going to continue to push. Felt fortunate to still be in the mix, and they feel like they're a few plays away. I think another word for the tonsil thing is killer instinct. It just feels like they've been missing the killer instinct in big moments, game-deciding moments this year where maybe it was there last year. And yeah, you mentioned the bobbled ball off of Aiden O'Connell's chest. I think a few bounces maybe went more so their way. Here's the reality. I mean, and this is the story of the season as it will be remembered. Either they turn it around now, and that starts to happen again where they get the bounces, they have the killer instinct, or this will go down as the worst year in the Patrick Mahomes era so far. And those are the two roads, and we'll start to figure out which road they're going to be taking when they play on Sunday Night Football against the Texans.
Could be the Andy Reid era as well. His era started, and Patrick Mahomes became the starting quarterback in 2018. Reid started as the head coach of the Chiefs in 2013. They missed the playoffs in year 2, 2014, but made them in each of the other years. This team is out, once again, a broken record here. We say it every week because it is always true. Team is outside the playoff picture right now. They're kind of deep outside the playoff picture. They're the 10 seed. Now, they've got tiebreakers over a couple teams in front of them. They have a golden opportunity to own a tiebreaker against a Houston Texans team that they meet on Sunday Night Football. This is a big game for them. It's a big game for many reasons, not the least of which is the tiebreaker advantage. But to match up against a team that's playing extremely well right now, that has a great defense, the Chiefs have an opportunity to show their fans something, maybe in the same vein they did the Indianapolis Colts game. But this may even be a tougher task, given that Houston just went into Indy and won.
Yeah, and first for the playoff seeding thing, suddenly the Jaguars are in front in the AFC South, which is good news for the Chiefs because they're out of the division business, at least for this year. So they're looking at wild card.
Yeah, you want Jacksonville to win the division. I think right now.
Forget the current teal. Put on your Jags teal for the remaining stretch. Because if the Jags were to win the AFC South, and let's say you do get this game against the Texans on Sunday, you now own tiebreakers against two of those AFC South teams and the Colts and what would be the Texans as far as if it came down to it, you got the head-to-head. So it's even more important in that sense. We're not used to talking about that in Kansas City where these other AFC teams that are out of division are going to determine potentially whether or not you make the postseason. And Blair, you mentioned it. This is a really good Texans team. This is going to be no easy task. It's also a Texans team, in my opinion, is peaking at the right time. It's the number one defense in the league. If you break that down to the micro, they're number 4 against the pass, number 4 against the run. That equates to the best defense in the NFL just on a yardage per game, points per game standpoint. And the primary concern for Kansas City, and I think this has been the number one topic, is the health of the offensive line, because this is a defense that starts with the front. There are a lot of guys who can get to the quarterback, and you could potentially be looking at a left to right of, let's see here, Moore, right? Suamataia. It would be Humphrey, Caliendo, and potentially even Morris. Morris and Moore were flipped last game, and that was because Moore came in first for the injured right tackle, and then Simmons was hurt later. And I think the theory behind that was Andy Reid didn't want to just keep flipping everyone mid-game. But I tend to think if they're still down a couple linemen, you'd see Moore take over the left side and Morris be on the right.
Let's go into that a little bit further. What a terrible opponent to have a banged-up offensive line.
Absolutely.
I mean, the worst opponent. This Houston team, I don't know if they lead the NFL in sacks. Seems like they should. How many times did they get to Josh Allen 2 weeks ago? Was it 8? I think they sacked Josh Allen 8 times.
They're among the top in the league. I believe the Broncos are number 1 in sacks, but just from a pure point standpoint, they're by and far number 1.
They got 2 players with double-digit sacks, Hunter and Anderson.
Yeah.
Those guys are beasts.
Well, that was my question to Andy Reid on Monday, and it's why I asked just some commentary on his confidence in Wanya Morris, because if you really watch Will Anderson, just isolating him, Anderson versus Morris is not a matchup one-on-one that you're going to want to watch. And so I do think as you get into the chest of this game, does Andy Reid have to swallow his past happiness for an outing? And do you see it become a little heavier? Do you turn it back to Kareem Hunt for 20 carries, maybe Pacheco 10? That it seems like he might have just taken over the lead role. Is it a different looking Chiefs offense? And hell, it might be ugly, but at this stage, wouldn't you rather the ugly of 24 when you're winning games than just the occasional flashy offense we've seen in 25 that tends to lose?
This is SportsBeat KC. I'm Blair Kerkhoff here with Chiefs beat writer Pete Sweeney. I guess if the Chiefs have one thing going for them, it's maybe muscle memory. This is a team they defeated twice last year, late last season, once in the playoffs and once late in the regular season. C.J. Stroud, who is back at quarterback for the Texans, played in both of those games. So they got that going for them. But recent history it really hasn't favored the Chiefs here. Look, they own the AFC West forever, and they've already lost to the Broncos and the Chargers this year. Does it help that they know how to beat this team, or they've beaten this team recently?
I think it helps in some regard, especially from a quarterback standpoint. I had an opportunity to watch the Texans-Colts game over the weekend, and Stroud was coming off a couple games where he missed due to concussion. I didn't think he looked as sharp, and I think for the Texans, they like that balance in their offense, and Chiefs have done really good against opposing running backs from ruining the game. So to me, it's not like Woody Marks and Nick Chubb really strike fear in me. I think it's Stroud maybe playing a little bit better than he did last week. I know he had the yardage, but I felt like there were still a couple missed throws on the field as I watched this game. And to me, you come off an outing where you really struggled with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, who seem to be among the top 5 in the league. Nico Collins and the up-and-coming, in my opinion, Jaden Higgins are going to offer another challenge. They don't have the name notoriety necessarily as Lamb and Pickens. But again, I still think this is now a team that needs to prove it can defend against the pass. Really, really bad looks, I thought, in Dallas. And a huge part of that, too, and Blair, man, how long we talked about this all year long, is this Chiefs' inability not really to get the other quarterback under duress with four, because it seems like they're able to do that, but finish. They just cannot get to the quarterback. And Stroud is another elusive guy, so we'll see if they can manage to get some pressure with four this weekend.
How about Andy Reid bringing that up specifically on Monday? I don't think I've ever heard him say something like, and it was just a little line. He said something, we got to get to the quarterback. That's as much as I've ever heard him have a little critical comment about his team.
We're seeing a little bit of a different Andy Reid this week. I sensed that on Monday as well. Andy Reid is a man of stark routine and tries to keep everything the same, down to the energy. But you could tell something about him. Maybe when they have this mini bye, he lets the players go. He probably said to himself, I need to be, even myself, a little bit more energized because we need to win. We need to win every single week. And we joked about the tonsil thing. I think part of that was the levity that it brings, because I saw it on SportsCenter twice last night. They're playing it. All the radio stations are playing it. I'm sure the players will be asked a little bit about it this week, where you lighten the mood a little bit. This is a guy that I think is very cerebral. But also, you mentioned, in a way, on the Andy Reid scale of calling players out, I know he barely mentioned it, but that's like an 8 for him. He doesn't do that. Same thing with, I think, the penalties, which Vahe was getting into. Just not going full scale complain, which I think we've seen after some really bad games that mattered a lot. But still, I think more than he usually is willing to go, of saying, yeah, like, we're unhappy with how the officiating has gone. I'm not going to go any further so I don't get fined, but I think he's trying to do everything in his power and even a little out of character to reverse the course of whatever we've seen for the first 12 games.
All right, well, I'm sure you have not written your prediction story yet, but which way you leaning? What do you think? What kind of things are you thinking about with this Chiefs-Texans game?
You know, it's Andy Reid off of another bye in a way.
Yeah.
And I know we're worried about the protection. He did seem a little bit more optimistic than I thought he might have been on Smith and Taylor. I imagine Taylor probably has the best of those linemen. Trey Smith could be dealing with the high ankle and whatnot. I think a huge part of this is if Taylor's able to play. I mean, I'm confident enough in Moore. If Taylor's able to play, I think you're feeling better about the protection. And it's just hard to, and I've been doing it every week and looking like a fool in my predictions, but it's just hard to bet against Mahomes in the spot when so many years, so many times we've seen him will the team to a must-have win. And look, it hasn't happened in 2025, but this is 8 years of data. Like, maybe this is the small sample size, and then finally turns for the Chiefs on Sunday.
Well, let's keep in mind, too, they've lost 3 of the last 4, all against teams that maybe will end up in the playoffs. Certainly the Broncos and the Bills are heading in that direction. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys found themselves in the playoffs at the end of the year. On the road,
right,
in difficult environments.
If the Chiefs somehow get in, they're going to be loving that football cliche. It's hard to beat a team twice in 1 year because they lost to everyone in the playoffs seemingly. And so they will have that going for them. And look, I know the Chiefs are down. I know you see these national storylines and these national take shows of Chiefs are done. This is a different team. The Kansas City dynasty is coming to a close. Man, all those AFC teams are looking themselves in the mirror and saying, we got to kill this team now. Nobody wants to see the Chiefs in the postseason. And if they're able to get Sunday's win and then follow that up with a Chargers win, now you're looking at a last 3 games where you're going to have, I'm not even worried about jinxing anything for Chiefs fans here. You're going to have wins against the Raiders and the Titans. And then it's a showdown with the Broncos. So
on Christmas night.
It's a 2-week season right now for them, in my opinion.
Very good. Great stuff as always, Pete. Thanks a lot. Let's take a break, and when we return, we'll preview the big week in World Cup soccer. This segment of SportsBeat KC is brought to you by Arvest Bank, supporting our World Cup coverage. The World Cup countdown clock is ticking, some 190 days until the world's largest sporting event comes to North America and Kansas City. And here to discuss is star columnist Vahe Gregorian. Hello, Vahe.
Blair, great to be with you all day.
All day. Great to see you again. Two big developments this week. One, it's about to happen. The World Cup draw is on Friday. That's when teams will be assigned to their groups. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. And then on Saturday, the release of the match schedule, which will include the sites and the game times. And that's combined as one of the big developments. The other one, of course, and the reason you and I have seen each other a lot the last couple of days is Kansas City is rolling out a transportation plan for its World Cup month, and we'll get to that as well. But let's talk about this weekend and what we're going to see with the draw and then the announcement of the sites. I don't want to call the Friday announcement anticlimactic. It's not. The World Cup is putting on a big show. I think Donald Trump is supposed to, be part of it. It's going to be on Fox. I mean, there will only be 1 billion viewers or so around the globe watching this. But the draw is one thing, and we already know the countries that have qualified for the World Cup. 42 have. Another 6 need to qualify in. But it's not really until Saturday when we know where the teams are assigned and what time the games are going to begin. That's the big news.
I think so. And I think Friday will feel like a lot of hoopla. But I think the thing that moves the needle, flips the switch, whatever cliche we want to use, is the clarity of finally seeing who will be coming here. And I think transforming this feeling of something vaguely over the horizon to, oh, it's on. And I think a lot of things are going to just sort of change with that immediacy. I mean, even today, as we talked to KC 2026 people, one of the points that was made be as soon as this is announced, we're going to have people clamoring to get here. It'll move up the base camp timetables. It'll even be probably that Saturday, media from countries X, Y, Z, and Q that want to engage with the Kansas City 2026 people to talk about what Kansas City organizing looks like.
Right.
So there's so much of that is just going to, I think, feel entirely transformed as of Saturday.
Right, and that is on Saturday. So on Friday, let's just to clarify this. Friday is the draw, the World Cup draw. That's all you've been hearing is the World Cup draw is Friday, December 5th. And, well, we've been almost for a year talking about the draw. And so what's going to happen in the draw is it's a 48-country tournament, which means there are 12 groups of 4 teams. So what we'll know with the draw is what those groups are going to look like. Who's in the groups? Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Teams 4, times 12. And we do know the schedule, the match schedule, has a skeleton of the match schedule has been out for almost a year as well. What we know is that Kansas City is going to get 2 games in Group J, 1 game in Group E, and 1 game in Group F. So when you watch this on Friday and you see the teams fall into the groups or get selected into the groups with a ping pong ball lottery type deal, if you're in Kansas City and you're curious about who's coming to Kansas City, pay attention to groups E, F, and J. And but what we won't know at the end of the day is the games themselves. We know the dates, we just don't know the kickoff times, and we don't know the matchup, who's coming here. Each group has 6 games. So even in Group J, where Kansas City gets 2 games, we get 2 of the 6. We won't know until Saturday which 2 those are. So it's not like we can welcome countries on Friday.
Yeah.
That's going to wait till Saturday.
To use an analogy that it's sort of a different context in conversations we had earlier today, but when I think of how this system is being put together, it makes me think of the grease board from A Beautiful Mind. Like, you seem to know how to explain it, all clear to you, but I read it over and over, and I keep finding myself, running into, walls and thinking of pods instead of pots and all these things. But part of the analogy that you made that I think will offer the most clarity for listeners and readers really is to think of it as just sort of a more exotic version of an NCAA tournament bracket. It's just we're not seeing all the same things immediately the way we would, that Missouri will be playing Saturday in Spokane.
As the number 3 seed.
As the 3 seed,
Right.
while we wait for the 14 to be put on. It's just not all at once, basically. Maybe I'm oversimplifying, but I think it's useful to think of it a little bit as the NCAA bracket. I think you wrote about it in that context.
Well, in one way, it's absolutely like the NCAA bracket in that the FIFA has determined that the top 2 teams in the tournament, based on their November rankings, that's Spain number 1 and Argentina number 2, will be aligned so that if they win their group, if they finish first in their group, they will not meet until the championship match. That's like the NCAA tournament in some respect. That's also true of the 3rd and the 4th ranked teams. The 3rd team is France. The 4th team is Germany. So it looks like the way I'm visualizing it, and I've seen on the FIFA website how they've visualized it. It's almost like you've got 4 teams that are 4 number 1 seeds in 4 different regions.
It has that effect, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. With which and of course, unlike the bracket where you could have the top 2 teams meeting in the national semifinal, depending on who advances and what, the FIFA has guaranteed that 1 and 2 can't play until the championship game if they win their pool. So there is a little bit of a March Madness element to this. But we're all going to have to watch on Friday and then on Saturday to get a full understanding of this. The other kind of story, in at least as regards to Kansas City this week, is the transportation issue. And Pam Kramer from KC 2026 and Mayor Quentin Lucas and other officials got together in Lenexa today. Both you and I attended this to lay out the plan and to present it. And it seems to me that Kansas City in next June and July will have the mass transit system, the likes of which we've never seen here. And kind of, I know a lot of, especially younger people, have always wanted and dreamed about having a mass transit system. We're going to have over 200 buses taking people from the airport to downtown to Fan Fest to the stadium, and then 15 different points around the metro area. Please consult your Kansas City Star online. We'll have maps and graphics about all this, but quite an elaborate plan laid out.
Very elaborate, intricate, sophisticated, and I think a couple things that this brings to mind for me. First of all, it's a little bit like the feeling of the draw. This is bringing a tangible reality to this, that people have been kind of clamoring to see the transportation plan. As I understand it, as it was expressed by a FIFA official there today, Kansas City is well ahead of other cities on this. Kansas City also, importantly, in how we'll look at the legacy of these games, is really making a commitment to the regionality of this, as opposed to just being the inner core. And symbolically enough, by this being held in Lenexa today, as they unveiled the transportation plan for KC 2026. So I just think that says a lot about what the hoped for impact will be, right? They want, the Italian journalists to, to come down to, go up to Liberty or go down to Lenexa if they have an angle to pursue there. They're just those sorts of things that are indicative of the mass scale that I think we're still trying to get our arms around. But this shows us a little bit of the spine of that.
Or even a restaurant they want to try. This isn't. That's a good point and a nice example of an international, either media member, fan, tourist coming here. This is how they're going to get around for the most part. But it's not only for them. It's for people who live in Kansas City who
far more for that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we're not a mass transit town. It's just never been in the Kansas City, psyche to be a mass transit town. We have a streetcar, which is great, goes 4 miles through downtown, and I know there's bus systems here in Kansas City, but unlike other cities, we don't have a train that goes to the airport. We don't have transportation that goes from downtown to the stadiums and things that I wish Kansas City would have. A lot of people do, but for whatever reasons, it never happened here. Well, this, as you say, could be the legacy of the World Cup and be the beginning of something pretty nice.
For sure, in all ways. And I think, one of the things, I guess we need to make sure we include this. We don't have it at our fingertips, but there's obviously already been announcements of specific public transportation that will be enhanced for this. So this is sort of supplemental and complementary to that. But actually, the example that was used today, if you took current existing public transportation from Lenexa to downtown Kansas City today, you're looking at 90 minutes or so after transfers. In the system as they're going to have it set up, it should be about 32 minutes to go from one to the other. And again, I'm glad you brought this other point up. This is about Kansas Cityans being able to move freely here, but also our visitors being able to get to places that we might not even understand will be on their list, whether it's a restaurant or perhaps a hotel staying 30 minutes out of town. It reminds me a good deal of what it looks like to go to an Olympics, the way an Olympic transportation system would be set up.
And you've been to a lot of them, many Olympics. So this will be my first kind of world event, international event. I'm glad I don't have to leave my house to see it. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I don't know yet. This will be sort of a, too much inside baseball talk really, but it will be interesting to see how this lays out for us in terms of the media, how we'll get around. I suspect we'll be using a lot of the same things that are public transit matters.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that came out of the press dealings that we've had recently was more than half of the Arrowhead Stadium parking lot will be unavailable. So Chiefs fans who are used to, they're just downloading their ticket and going in, it's not going to be available for most people, is my understanding.
Yeah, unless it's in some kind of primo packaging that's maybe beyond the budgets of most people that are hoping to go. Yeah. And I unfortunately the numbers, we have it here right in front of us, but I can't really go through it right now. But it is worth noting that the way this transport scheme will work out, on non-game days, it's roughly 15 sites that will give you sort of a park and ride feeling to get downtown or to go out to those sites. On game days, it's the basically 5 places, 3 to 5 places, I guess, you can get loaded up to get transport directly to the stadium.
Right. So if you're in like the southern part of the metro area, maybe in the southwest, you would go to Oak Park Mall, and that's where Park and Ride will be. That will take you to the stadium. There's another one on 40 Highway, I believe. Yeah,
that'll be the most proximate one.
Yeah.
And these sites are not specific. There's one downtown too, and yet another one I think as well. This is why we'll show you the maps in the paper. I was giving you a teaser of this. But I think each still is being worked out as far as the actual specific site is just rough areas. I think there's some things still being settled on that.
And there will be fares for the bus. You're going to have to pay to ride the bus. I hope it's not exorbitant. And I suspect it won't be.
I suspect it won't be. And as we've understood from some behind the scenes talks we've had, I think they're still working out. I don't know if universal is the wrong way to put it, but some sort of broader transportation package, I think, but you also have to have specifics within that. There's going to be apps involved at some point. So all that stuff, I think, is sort of next tier on this.
Okay. All right. Great stuff, Vahe. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Blair.
This segment of SportsBeat KC was brought to you by Arvest Bank. How about this doubleheader on Sunday? We got the Chiefs at 7:20 p.m. At noon, there's a border war basketball game between Kansas and Missouri at T-Mobile Center. Both teams are playing well, and we'll see if we can say the same thing after tonight when KU hosts Connecticut and Mizzou travels to Notre Dame. But no matter the outcomes of those games, it's always a big deal and a tough ticket when KU meets MU. The game is on ESPN2. Also, the Women's College Soccer Final Four is coming to town this week. The College Cup semifinals will be played at CPKC Stadium on Friday, with Florida State taking on TCU and Duke meeting Stanford. The winners will meet Monday for the championship. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC staff of Gabriella, Lacey, Suzanne, Hogan, Irvin, Zhang, and Monty Davis, and to our editors Jeff Rosen and Scott Chasen. We'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City.